Hello everyone, and I welcome you all towards my channel. So today I'll be explaining about what is constitutional law. Along with that, I'll also be teaching about what is constitutionalism, and I'll be even explaining about the features of constitution that shows constitutionalism and rule of law. Along with that, three pillars of rule of law. All this I'll be explaining it to you. See, guys, the main essence of me starting this YouTube channel itself is basically, teaching you all about the simplest means of understanding the law subjects and all. So in that, one of the most requested topic by most of the students was about, Pavan, can you please teach us about constitutional law? So as part of it, this video I'm just uploading. So kindly make sure that you just understand the concepts and try to use the same technique for your exams also, because I'll be covering up all the case laws, all the important aspects, sections, everything I'll be covering. So I just want your patience and your own calmness for noting it down, and make sure that you just write down these pictures or take a photo of it. It can literally help you a lot. Okay, now starting with, what is this constitutional law? So constitutional law, for example, there are certain kind of powers which has been established. There are three bodies in our governance. First of all, we have judiciary, executive, as well as legislative. So constitutionalism and so as constitutional law, what exactly is it, we'll try to understand by today's day. But for the time being, understand there are three important functions, the three important bodies which is structuring or creating a framework for a country. One is judiciary, executive, and legislative. So similar way, so what is supreme law of the land? That is constitution. Constitution is considered the supreme law of the land. The Bible of our country can be considered as a constitution. Got it? So our constitution is the principles, the laws, or for example, the articles which has been enshrined into it. It is basically the supreme law of the land. The purpose of having a constitution is to have a framework of government which is likely to endure through the changes of nation. Yes. What do you understand by this term of the purpose of having the constitution is to have a framework of government? That means that framework of the government. Let me try to highlight this particular point for you. Yes, do I have a highlighter option? Yes, I have an highlighter option. It is basically the purpose of having a constitution is to have a framework of government which is likely to endure through the changes of nation. That means that the constitution is basically providing a framework for the country on how it needs to function and how it needs to perform its workforce. Got it? Very simple. One, it is three bodies of the government. In order to provide as well as the powers of the three bodies of the government, what are its checks, what are its limits, everything is covered in the form of constitution, and it is considered the supreme law of the land, and it is a framework for the government. Now, what is this constitutionalism? So what do you mean by constitutionalism? Do you think that these legislative or executive, can they do whatever they wish like? No. So constitution is basically putting a limitations on the power of the government, so that we can understand through the important aspect of constitutionalism. Okay, second important point is constitutionalism recognizes the need of the government but also insist upon the limitations being placed upon the government powers. Very simple, very important point. That means what? The constitutionalism recognizes the need for the government. It tells that okay, there is a need for the government, but along with that, what are the other things we need to keep in the mind? But also insist upon limitations being placed upon the governmental powers. That means that if just imagine, okay, if government is given complete power to take their own decisions, what will they do? They'll try to exploit it. So in order to maintain the checks and limits through the judicial review, judicial, that I'll be going through next important aspect, these limitations, everything is basically set in a constitutionalism. Next, constitutionalism is the antithesis of the arbitrary power. So it is also providing on what is the framework of this arbitrary powers. Arbitrary means what? How this arbitrary power, it could be like an excessive power by, for example, it could be by executive. Okay, so what I hope you understood by now what is legislative. Legislative makes laws. Legislative, executive means what do they execute the laws. It could be a police officer, civil servants. Executive, judiciary, lawyers like us. Okay, so arbitrary power. So constitutionalism is the antithesis of an arbitrary power. It also makes sure that the powers are basically carried out in a proper manner. And next one is about limited government. So constitutionalism makes sure that there is a form of limited governance. That means that they cannot be considered that legislative or the executive ultimate superior. We cannot consider that. Now, the constitution and not merely to confer powers on various organs of the government, but also seeks to restrain those powers. Constitutionalism recognizes the need for government, but insists upon limitations being placed by the governmental powers. Very simple. That means that what, guys, if you observe very carefully, it is providing a limitations as well as a constitutionalism envisages checks and balances. So it provides a form of checks and balances and makes sure that no authority is superseding the other one. Okay, very simple as this. The features of the constitution that shows constitutionalism is ever, for example, we have independent judiciary. So we have judiciary as separate body itself. Just imagine if the law making power, the law deciding power, what is right and wrong, everything is taken care by the legislative and executive. Do you think that our law system in a country will be really effective? No, it will never be effective functioning. They can be misused on it. So independent judiciary we have, it is the meaning that there is a form of constitutionalism, there is a form of checks and balances which is happening. It could be in terms of judicial review, separation of the powers, separation of the powers. We have legislative, executive, judiciary, as well as the written constitution. It is very clearly, our forefathers have very beautifully written this one. Okay, and that we'll try to understand one by one. This is just the part one of the video. I don't want you to get bored on with this, but I'll be explaining one by one more onto it. So what is this rule of law? It is being expounded by A.V. Dicey. State is governed by law and not by the ruler. It is a very important principle. Before, it was believed that king can do no wrong because he is the ruler. That was a before principle. I think many BCs or AD, before Christ, or if you just look into many empires or AD, Anno Domini, before, when kings time and all was there, it was a belief that king can do no wrong. Okay, but that same principle is not applied now. Okay, however, in our country like India, it is never applied like that. But here it is stating that the law is more important than the verdict what king says. That's very important. Now the three principles of rule of law is that absence of arbitrary powers. Okay, no man is above law, including the state. Punishment only in accordance with the law of the land and not arbitrarily. See, what is the three pillars of rule of law? That means whether you're a prime minister, whether you're the president, whether you are anyone, any particular post you're holding up, or vice president, any particular post, you are basically considered to be equal. Okay, no one is above the law, no one is below the law. That is as an important principle. That's called equality before the law. Next, individual liabilities can be equated to the concept of fundamental rights in a constitution. Individual liability shall be safeguarded by the state. That means that what? Individual liabilities, so we are transferring our rights to the government, and the government has a duty to protect it. So guys, there's very important two important aspect you need to know. One is right and second one is a duty. So when there is an existence of a right, when I am giving my rights, okay, just imagine, as a child I'm giving my rights for my parents to decide everything for my good. So they have a duty to safeguard me as well as guide me in a better manner. It's very simple as this. So guys, this important concept, if you understand, no, entire constitution becomes very simple. So guys, please do take a pic, okay, about what is constitutional law, constitutionalism, and then features of constitution that shows constitutionalism, rule of law, three pillars of rule of law. So guys, that's all for today's video. Hope you liked it. If you do like it, please do like, share, and subscribe, and do let me know your views in the comments, because I would be happy enough to read it, and I'll be posting more videos on this basis so that it can literally help you a lot. Goodbye.